What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Steeler Nation. Welcome to the latest episode of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, live from the Steel Basement on Tuesday, April 22nd. 2 days before the 2025 NFL Draft, and oh boy, we have a lot of questions. Some of the same questions we've had for quite some time. But we have a lot of questions, guys, and we're going to get into it, man. I'm going to talk a little bit about it tonight. And hopefully by the end of the night, man, you know, we'll all sit back and continue to wonder what's going to happen. Some of you guys will feel good about where you think the Steelers are. Some of you won't. I'm going to ask a question in this particular broadcast that may catch some of you guys by surprise. Nothing bad, but I'm just going to ask a scenario and how you guys would feel about it. But let's get to it, man. Let's get to it. Let's say hello to the early commenters first and foremost. Let's see who we got up in the building already. A few of you guys and gals are in here early. Sonny Rothmiller, Rob Dilla, CT Pittman, Crazy Ron Gaiman, Vista Light, Steeler Cards, Jersey Boy, Dez, my man Dez in the building. What's up, Dez? Y'all know that's my guy right there, man. I like to call him my favorite Raven Raven fan. You know, him and two of my best friends as well, man. You know, my favorite Raven fans. But what's up, Dez? What's happening, brother? Dietrich Bundick. My good brother Tony is in the building. My brother Kenyon also in the building. Debbie, hello. Debbie here early. Always good to see Debbie. And guys, y'all know the routine, man. For our lovely ladies of Steeler Nation, I'm going to ask you to treat them with care. Treat them like your own. Roll out that red carpet for them, man, and make sure you say hello. Take care of our lovely ladies. What's up, Debbie? Always good to see you. And again, Debbie, I'm going to extend the invitation. No pressure. But if yourself or any of the other lovely ladies, if y'all want to join Kenyon and myself draft night, feel free. Please let me know. You know how to reach me, and you know the answer is already yes. Who else we got in here, man? Leonard Green in the building. Brother Man to you in the building. And that's all we got right there as far as early commenters. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start, but let me let you guys know where I want to go tonight. Here are the main topics of the night and whatever else you guys may put in the chat. But the main topics of the night, man, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and his comments. I was going to do an independent video about that after he was on Pat McAfee, and I didn't get around to doing it. So I said, you know what, hold it. Let's hold it and save it for Terrible Towel Tuesday. So I'm going to get into that tonight. It was a lot that Aaron Rodgers said, man, that I want to break down. Also, the Steelers draft plan. I listened to the pre-draft conference with Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin. And guys, this is what I say each and every year. I say this about any Mike Tomlin interview and any Omar Khan interview. And I'm sure they're just like other GMs and head coaches in the league. They're not going to tell you everything. You know, it cracks me up at the fan response to some of these questions, right? Because they're not going to tell you their plan, their actual feelings, what they actually discussed with the team. They're not going to share that with us. They're going to answer the question because it's part of their duty. They're going to try to be candid without giving you all of the information. That's how it works. But for some reason, us as fans get pissed off at that. Like y'all expecting them to tell us everything. You expecting them to tell us their full plan. It's not going to happen. I don't believe there's any coach that tells you everything. I am not mad at the reporters, however. You know, some people would say, well, why do they ask those questions? It's a dumb question. They're not going to answer it. Well, they got to ask because you might catch them slipping, right? You might catch them slipping. You might catch them in the right moment and they tell you a little too much, or you got to at least ask the question so you can read and follow the breadcrumbs. Excuse me. They sometimes give you enough information that are breadcrumbs, right? And Omar Khan absolutely gave me some breadcrumbs in that conference in the first 2-3 minutes. There was only two things that he said that is important, and I will talk about those here in a moment. So let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Let's start with the Aaron Rodgers comments because I got a lot to say about it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So let me pull up. I got all of the notes, man. This is the stuff I notated in my phone when I was expecting to do an independent video. But let's get to it. So any of you guys that may or may not know, Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show. And, you know, shout outs to Pat McAfee. You know, he has that relationship with Pat. And he was able to get Aaron Rodgers to come on the show. He hadn't been on there in a while. You know, they were saying it had been a few months. I know that he used to be a regular on the show, but, you know, I don't watch. And I like Pat McAfee. So let me clear that up. I love Pat McAfee. I love what he, you know, him just being able to be candid, be who he wants to be, and, you know, what he built to build it to where it is. Shout outs to him. I respect it, right? But I just don't always watch the show. And I think it's more so because of the time slot. You know, I do work from home most of the time, but a lot of times during that period, I'm busy. You know, that time slot, I never really sit and watch the entire show. I always watch a lot of the clips. A lot of times when there's topics or, you know, lead topics that hit the airwaves, you know, I will go and see if I can find a clip from the Pat McAfee show. So I watch it, but I don't watch it, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's a long-winded way of me saying I didn't realize that Aaron Rodgers hadn't been on his show in a couple months, but it makes sense. It makes sense. You know, he's kind of been doing his thing, his home in Malibu or what have you. And so shout outs to McAfee for getting him on there. And let me just comment on some of the things that I picked up from Aaron Rodgers. If some of you guys want to share your thoughts as well, feel free. Drop them in the chat. And if I don't see it the first time, keep dropping it until I see it. So the first thing I want to talk about, Aaron Rodgers came out and he said he's dealing with some personal issues. Didn't sound like it was anything personal as far as himself, but personal to him in terms of people in his close circle. Did not elaborate on what's going on. But clearly he said, you know, some people in his inner circle, people that are close to him, are dealing with some personal issues that are close to him, right? As far as whatever they're going through affects him greatly. And that's kind of what's been on his mind. He also talked about willing to play for $10 million. That was the number that he dropped. But his overarching point was, hey, it's not about the money. Why is that important, you might ask? Well, let's just play into that narrative just a little bit. You guys have heard me say, and I've repeatedly said, man, I'm sick of waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Oh, man, I don't want to pay Aaron Rodgers all that kind of money. And da-da-da-da-da. Why don't the Steelers just, you know, just keep shooting until they hit the target? Like, keep going young and keep drafting until they hit the target, right? Let's stop repeating the let's try to bring somebody in now that could win, old veteran. No, I've been saying that repeatedly, and I still feel that way. However, the only caveat that I had to Aaron Rodgers, remember when Kenyon was on for the Last Still Table, and Kenyon laid out a scenario in which Aaron Rodgers makes sense, and I said, okay, the only caveat that I have where I would say, okay, I would agree to it, is if it was for 1 year, on the cheap. And when I mean on the cheap, I'm talking about on a quarterback's cheap. Him saying that it's not about the money out of his own mouth and saying, hey, I'd play for 10 M's. I wouldn't be as opposed to it if it ended up being that from a money standpoint. I'm just talking money. Just talking money. I wouldn't be as opposed to it if they brought him in for 1 year at $10 million in comparison to what quarterbacks are making. That would not tick me off. However, my overarching feeling about it is I'm just tired of us repeating that cycle. I don't believe the Steelers are a Super Bowl team right away with just Aaron Rodgers. I just don't. Would we be more effective? Sure. Would you expect us to potentially win a playoff game? Sure. It was the same thing I said when Russell Wilson came, and we got to the playoffs and had our offense clicked a little better gameplay out of Russell Wilson. And I'm just talking about execution and the other components as well, but maybe we could have won a playoff game. Who knows? However, I don't see the Steelers being much more than what they were last year, inserting Aaron Rodgers. What could possibly happen is I think the offense might be more potent, but Super Bowl contender, I don't see that. And again, Aaron Rodgers is 2 years from his Achilles injury. He's 41 years of age, right? Played relatively decent last season, but it wasn't a world beater season. So I just don't think he elevates us to Super Bowl contender. Perhaps entering the playoffs and winning a game, that is feasible if you add what Aaron Rodgers can still do even at this stage. DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Freiermuth, Calvin Austin even. If you get something from Roman Wilson, Darnell Washington, Jaylen Warren, and whoever you draft, one of them dudes who came in for the pre-draft visit, yeah, the offense might be a little more potent. I just don't see them being Super Bowl contenders. So if that's not the case, and Steeler Nation is all about winning championships, I don't think it pleases you guys much. Let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. I don't think it pleases Steeler Nation much to insert Aaron Rodgers unless, and I'm not going to say, I'm not going to disagree if some of you guys feel this way, unless some of you guys think that we are a Super Bowl team with Aaron Rodgers. If you think that, then I can understand why you would want him. Also, I'm looking in the chat really quick. I'm going to ask you guys to do me a favor. Kenyon and Tony are very good with this. Please don't spoil anything pertaining to movies like Sinners. I haven't seen it yet. Please do not. I only say that because I see a conversation going there, and Debbie's generally good at that too. Guys, please, if y'all are watching, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about others. Don't drop no spoilers or nothing in the chat. Nothing. Please. That's all I ask from y'all. If I say I haven't seen something, please honor that for me, please. Please. I want to have the same excitement that you guys had when y'all saw said movie, said series, etc. That's all I ask. So yeah, the money isn't an issue. Aaron Rodgers also said this. This might be one of the more key factors. Matter of fact, I'm going to save this one for last. Something else that he said he has been upfront with the teams that he's talked to. Upfront, he says, I'm not hiding anything. He even used the words, I'm not holding any team hostage. Buzzword for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said this last week about Tomlin and crew. You say you want volunteers, not hostages, so why are you allowing Aaron Rodgers to hold you hostage? Did Aaron Rodgers watch this show? Did somebody by chance send Aaron Rodgers a clip of the show when I said, man, I'm sick of you waiting. I'm sick of you doing this to the team. And Tomlin said he wants volunteers, not hostages. And then Aaron Rodgers goes on Pat McAfee and says that. Now, clearly I'm joking. Maybe if I was this big, large YouTube presence, maybe if I was a Kai Cenat or something like that, I might believe, hey, man, maybe he heard this. But, yeah. He said, I'm not holding any team hostage. So I appreciate that from Aaron Rodgers. He's in tune with the lingo of probably Steeler Nation and or Mike Tomlin, and he used that in his comments there. So if he's been straight up with a team, then I feel a little differently about what we perceive as the team just being held hostage. If they know exactly what he's doing and he told them, hey, listen, if you got to move on, please do. And it's a mutual thing, then I'm not as upset as I was last week saying that he's holding the locker room hostage and affecting the locker room. Maybe not. If both sides and everybody knows what's going on, still could be affecting the team because maybe the players don't know. But if both sides know exactly where they stand and we just don't, it's all good. He also confirmed what Ben said isn't true regarding the Vikings waiting on him and him waiting on the Vikings, so to speak. So I thought that was cool that, he heard what Ben had to say and he debunked that. Very interesting what he said about the Jets. Man, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear what he said, how Aaron Glenn handled him? And I want to ask y'all that question really quick. Let's take a quick moment. How do you guys feel about the way the Jets handled that situation? Per Aaron Rodgers, he says that he flew all the way across country. He said on his own dime or whatever. The team didn't bring him there. He said within 20 seconds of the conversation with the GM, Aaron Glenn, new head coach, says, hey, you still want to play football? Aaron Rodgers says he proceeds to say yes. And then Aaron Glenn says, well, we're going to go in a different direction at quarterback. We just want to know what you prefer for messaging. He said he was caught off guard by that. He was like, what? You can fly me all the way over here to tell me something that you could have told me over the phone. So I'm going to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about that if all of that is true? Do you think the Jets are wrong from bringing him in? And within 20 minutes, or he said 20 seconds of the conversation, it basically said, hey, we're going in a different direction. We just wanted to discuss messaging. Or do you guys feel like they could have saved him that trip and picked up the phone? I'm curious to see how y'all feel about that. So if y'all could take time to answer that for me, we'll just take a quick moment and then we'll get back to the list. But how do y'all feel about the way they handled that? Three Wings Mumbo says no. Bradley Masterson says yes, the Jets are a joke of an organization. Kenya says the Jets at least said it to his face, Sim. Yeah, you know what? And the more I sat with it, I kind of was like, all right. If it was man to man, do I respect the man more for talking to me, giving me the professional courtesy, or just the real man courtesy of saying, hey man, I just wanted to, let you know this. I ain't want you to have to hear it this way. I wanted to bring you in. I get it. It's not as bad to me as Aaron Rodgers is making it. I have to say just who I am as a person, my personal opinion and personality, I respect a man in general bringing you in and talking to you in your face. That's not a cowardly move. To me, cowardly would be more like, hey, we're not going to bring you back. Shoot me a text or send a messenger. So I respect it. I understand Aaron Rodgers' position on it, but I thought it was very professional for them to do that. Let me see what else you guys say. Bradley said the Jets are just the Browns in green. Mr. Light says to be professional, do it in person. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Eric McDuffie says, I think the Jets were in a lose-lose situation because Rodgers would have been upset either way. And that is a fact. That is a fact. C. Pete's, wait, I skipped somebody. My man, Why Diggy says, under normal conditions, yes, the Jets are wrong. But with Aaron Rodgers, it would be damned if you do, damned if you don't. So how it was delivered doesn't matter. That is facts. C.T. Pittman says, jobs do it all the time. Make you work all day. Knowing they gonna let you go. Man, let me tell you something, guys. I've been in that situation where I had to do that. It sucks, bro. It really does, because I'm always the one with the moral compass, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna make them work all day. But it's just the nature of the business. And being on the management side, guys, I will say this. There's reasons why you do that, right? And I won't go no further than that, because you never know who's watching it. So I keep my professional business. But I will say, from being on the management side, there is reasons why you do that, and that I understand that I learned later in life being in management that I didn't understand when I was, just an employee in terms of where I was not in management. So, but yeah, I always feel bad about that when that has to happen. And I'm like, man, we could have just let them stay at home. But anyway, so let's move on, guys. Yeah, I think it was professional by the Jets. At least, well, I'll say by Aaron Glenn, because Aaron Glenn may have requested that. So who's to say whose idea it was? The next thing he said is he spoke very highly about Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith. Like, spoke very highly of them. I mean, you wouldn't expect him to trash them, but, I felt like he kind of fed into the buzz a little bit by overly talking about them, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, he knows the teams that we are all, asking where he's going. So for him to speak the way he did about them, I think he was very clear in letting you know that, yes, he's been in constant communication with the Steelers. The Steelers is an organization that seems like that he would play for in the right circumstance. And he's highly, respects the head coach and Arthur Smith. And he also mentioned Tom Arth. He mentioned that him and Tom Arth were in the same quarterback room at some point. So there's some ties there that would, put a bow on that deal right there if Aaron Rodgers were to decide. But here's something else that he said. He says, verbatim, I'm 41 years old and I have some off-field stuff going on that requires my attention. I have a couple people in my inner circle who are battling some difficult stuff. To make a commitment to a team is a big deal. Verbatim, that's what he said. He doesn't want to commit to a team because he just doesn't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to add to that something else that I take from that. And I said I was going to come back and say this statement last. So here it is. Retirement is not off the table, folks. Y'all know it, what I always say. And many people have said the same thing, but I stick to this in any situation. When somebody is talking about retirement, they already gone, bro. When it creeps up in your mind, you're already gone. That's in anything. I've told you guys many times over, there was a time, when your boy was in the music industry and, doing my thing, active artist, But then the time came when I was like, I started contemplating like, man, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, like, man, what am I really chasing? Do I want to conform and make microwave music? The real music was starting to die as far as, real hip hop pedigree, real lyrics. That stuff was starting to die off. It's starting to come back now, though. Starting to come back. But I seen the light. And once I put that in my mind, I knew I was already done. I knew I was already done with being an active artist. I mean, hip hop is always going to be in my blood. I'm always going to consider myself an MC. I could write a verse anytime I felt like it, but to actively participate, nah. I knew when it was time. I was like, I'm focusing on some other things here. But when you know, right? When you even start contemplating it, you done. So for him to say all that stuff, retirement is not off the table. And that's telling me all I need to know, folks. That's telling me all I need to know. Again, he said he has been very, very transparent with the teams that he's talked to. One of those teams, yes, Pittsburgh Steelers. So now that leads me to the next topic. I don't know if you guys were paying attention or not. In the first 2 minutes, Omar Khan pretty much told you what they were doing. He says, and I quote, first thing he said before he even took questions, he started with this. You guys know we going to camp with 4 quarterbacks. We currently have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. One thing for sure is we will have 4 quarterbacks going to Latrobe. That tells me all I need to know. The Pittsburgh Steelers are drafting a quarterback in this year's draft, ladies and gentlemen. It would be a surprise to me if they signed 2 free agents. I don't see that. That's not likely. It's not likely. They are drafting somebody. The question is who and when. That is the only question I have at this point. It's no more a question of if they're going to draft a QB. I'm putting that to bed. And if I end up being wrong, I am welcome to being wrong. But, dog, you as the GM don't come out and say that. And again, guys, I always tell y'all, read the breadcrumbs. That man came out with, and he attacked what everybody wanted to know before they asked. All right, first of all, let me start off by just saying, I have to play it for y'all so y'all can hear it. For those of y'all that didn't hear it. You know what? Let's do that. Let's do that. Let me find it. Let's do that. Let's do that. I was just watching it a little while ago. Let's play it for those in the back of the room that didn't hear this.
Here's some chow.
Here we go. Y'all ready? Let's go.
Guys, good to see everyone. Good? Perfect.
Their audio is
I'll
terrible.
just touch base on a couple things before we take any questions. First, I know you guys are going to ask about the quarterback position, and I'll just tell you guys same thing. We discussed in Palm Beach a couple weeks ago. We go to camp with 4 quarterbacks. Right now we have 2 on the roster, and all options are on the table. And how we acquire those last 2, I assure you we'll have 4 when we get to Latrobe. Excited about this week. There's a lot of good.
Is there anything else that needs to be said? He said, I could bet you one thing for sure. We go to Latrobe, it's going to be 4 of them, and we'll see how we acquire them. There's nothing off the table here. Nothing. He said there's nothing off the table. We'll see how we acquire them, but we going into camp with 4 of them things. One of them boys will be drafted. Somebody is going to be drafted. Now, here's the second thing he said that was very key, that had me perk up a little bit. He said, matter of fact, let's play it, because I think he about to say it. Let's play it. Hold on.
Good players that can help us. We have 6 picks. I don't know how realistic it is that we move up, but you never know. I think same put or moving back is probably a bigger option for us. But excited. There's good players.
Guys, let me remind you that that's 48 seconds into this interview. He said, trading up, trading back are all on the table. He said, however, staying put or trading back is more likely. Now, it could be smoke and mirrors, but how many times have we seen the Pittsburgh Steelers do exactly what they say they're going to do and not throw no smoke screen? So now we know that the opportunity of trading back is there. Kenyon just wrote that. Kenyon been saying that. It's possible. And the man told us, hey, look, I don't think we ever had a GM give us that much of the play. Like I told you, the breadcrumbs was heavy. They poured the breadcrumbs a little longer than they expected. They was heavy in 48 seconds. Yeah, we ain't got but 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, the idea is we're gonna go with 4. So we're gonna get us one. That's basically what he said. And then he went as far as to say, and more likely we're gonna stay where we are or trading back. That would be more than likely than us trading up. That tells us a lot. That should tell some of you a lot if you are looking at certain players for them to draft. This is going to be an interesting Thursday night, especially if they trade back. I can't wait. I can't wait. And we're going to be live. I cannot wait for it. Now, here's the next thing I want to say. I want y'all to really think about this before you answer it. Here's my last topic and question to you guys. Before I ask this question, let me clear something up. Can I clear something up with y'all really quick? One of the things I like to do the most is reanalyze something that I may have said in the past. Sit with that. Go reanalyze my own opinion or my own review of tape. I was just telling Kenyon the other day that I went back and I looked at a little more of Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck can move a little more than I thought. I discounted that part of his game as far as mobility. He has sneaky athleticism. This boy is big too. I forgot that he was kind of the prototypical 6'4", 2 plus big boy. Y'all did hear me say that his arm talent was special, but remember I said it was not much that jumped off the table that wowed me. Still not so much of that, but I would say don't sleep on Shuck being taken in the third round if he's sitting there. I could clearly see why that could possibly happen. So I'm going to go back on what I said a little bit as far as like, nah, he's not that bad. Now, the concern with him, he's got some injury history. I think he's 25, 26, something like that, or will be 26. And I totally forgot this too, man. Tomlin mentioned it. Some of these guys is like COVID guys where they're a year older because of the COVID year and all of that. So that's why you're probably seeing some of that. You get this guy in the third or later, I'm not mad. I'm not mad because he has enormous arm talent. I'll say this. Tyler could be the type of guy that comes into camp and could potentially beat out a Mason Rudolph, like whatever that means to y'all. What I'm saying is he could end up being somebody that legit plays better and earns the spot, by the time the season starts. But I'm just talking about if he's sitting there in the third round and nobody else is there, right? So I'm painting, because before I even look at the chat, I know some of y'all are gonna say, no, I wouldn't take him here. Guys, when I talk about these people, I'm talking about the scenario. I'm not talking about who they should take over who. I'm saying that we get to the third round. All them other quarterbacks that everybody's projecting is already gone. What I'm saying is don't sleep on the Steelers taking a shot at him in the third or later if he's sitting there. They brought him in. They talked to him. I'm just saying. I can see why they might do that as, maybe not a franchise guy, but hey, let's cast out and see if we could catch one. That's all. I think I still like... Yeah, I think I still like what I saw from Howard more than Shuck as a complete package. But, just don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on Howard either. Some of those guys, listen, at the end of the day, again, they drafted one of them. Now I got to go do some more due diligence, man. Maybe I might pull a few tape, a little bit of tape tonight. But, maybe it doesn't matter, man. I can watch tape on these guys after the fact if they get drafted. But, the Riley Leonards and all of them dudes, the McCord guy, all of them are in play now. Like I said, they're drafting somebody, it just depends on where. That's my only question. Where? Now, here's my last question to you guys. Y'all ready for this? And please answer this with an open mind. Oh, answer this question honestly. Honestly. If the Steelers reach, I'm going to say this several times. If the Steelers reach, if they end up reaching on a quarterback in the first round at 21, or even if they moved up, I'm just saying a scenario where they taken a quarterback in the first and they reach, in your opinion, who do you prefer that reach to be? And why? Let me say the question one more time. If the Steelers reach on a quarterback, who do you guys prefer that they reach on? And when I say reach, I'm talking about for all of you guys that don't feel like any of these people are first rounders except for Cam Ward. So if you're not feeling like any of these dudes are first rounders or you shouldn't move up for any of them, that's what I'm talking about by reach. So consider the Steelers taking somebody at 21 or moving up to get someone that you would not expect. That would be a reach. Who would you guys prefer the reach is? And while y'all do that, let me make sure. I want to make sure I didn't miss any Wonder Bread, guys, because, I always try to thank everybody when it happens. I don't see it, so let me just making sure. Bradley Masterson says Sanders at 21 is a reach. Okay. So, Bradley, you're saying if they were to reach, you would prefer that is Shedeur? That's the question I'm asking. If you accept the fact that the Steelers are going to reach on a quarterback, I'm asking, who do you want it to be? Somebody says Charlie Cox. I have no idea who that is. I'm just being honest. But that definitely would be a reach because I don't know who that is. Steeler Card says every QB other than Shedeur is a reach. Wow. Okay. So you're taking Shedeur out of yours. All right, Steeler Card. So again, if they reach, who would you prefer the reach be? Mr. Winningham, how you doing, sir? He says Milroe because of athletic ability and arm strength. Okay. Okay. Who else? DCTV says Sanders is the only acceptable answer. Okay. Who else? Steeler Card says Shedeur all day if I had to pick. Okay. Cool with that. Anybody else got one? Ollie Howard says Sanders has the IQ and pro mindset. Okay. And I will wait for somebody to give me one more. Master Music says every player, not just QB, is a crapshoot at the end of the day. That is a fact. Kenya says, I don't know if any QB in my top 5 QBs are a reach sim, but I would talk about it Thursday. All right, let's hold that. Let's hold that, Kenyon. Let's hold that. We got a lot to talk about before we get to our pick. B at E says, I don't think Sanders fits the still. Me neither. I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, actually. When I did my breakdown of Shedeur, I had a show, I think it might have been 2 weeks now, where I dedicated it to Shedeur. I think he'll be okay, man. I don't see him fitting the Steelers scheme as currently constructed. And I'm just going off of what we saw from Arthur Smith and what he was trying to do last season. You can only expect that is primarily his same offense a mentality. You may mix it up a little bit with a new QB, but judging off of what we saw on display, I do not see Shedeur Sanders fitting into a 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 22 personnel heavy offense. Under the center, passing, play action from under the center. I don't see it. Because he just hasn't done that in college. It's not to say he can't, but again, we're talking about scheme fit. So this means you would be trying to force him to, and maybe he can do it, but observation would tell us it's not the right fit. So let me tell you guys who mine would be. And again, remember, I'm talking about if I felt like it was a guy that isn't necessarily a first rounder and they reach, I'm going to agree with Mr. Winningham. Mine would be Jalen Milroe. Let me explain why. Again, guys, the premise of the question is not comparing quarterbacks and who's the better pick and all of that. I'm saying reach. Jalen Milroe, to me, if you're going to reach on a quarterback, I'm just looking at what could be. That's all. What could be. And I look at him out of all of the QBs and was like, man, just imagine if he could do ... Wow. Wow. And again, all I can think about is Lamar Jackson. Every time I say that, there's always somebody, yeah, but Lamar is better coming out of... I don't care about that. When I say Lamar Jackson, I'm just saying that is a great comparison of a guy who could run the length of the field just like that, who is ridiculously fast in the open field, didn't have the best accuracy coming out of college, and now has learned how to be a complete quarterback. That is why I use that comparison versus any other quarterback that we've seen. That's why I use that comparison. The only other comparison that you could say is maybe and I'm not even going to go that far back, but I always say my favorite Michael Vick as a quarterback was Eagles Vick. When Vick was throwing for 300-something average and still could run. That was my favorite Vick. The most entertaining Vick obviously was the Atlanta Falcons Vick, who just take off and run. But as a complete quarterback, man, Michael Vick with the Eagles, he had a couple special seasons, man, just statistically, and just how he would go through with progressions and how, a real quarterback, and he still had the threat of running. Just like Lamar of last year and the year before that, MVP year up until now. That's my favorite Lamar Jackson, because now he is a real threat. So that's what I'm saying when I compare it. I say Jalen Milroe running a 4.37 40, and we've seen him run 60-yard plus, runs in college, and nobody can track him down, even on an angle. That makes you say, man, just imagine if he could XYZ also. If he could become that dream scenario, that would be the person that I would say I'd take a shot on that. If and only if we were reaching on a quarterback saying, look, none of these guys are necessarily home run hitters as far as we know he's going to be a 10-year starter, but we're going to roll the dice on one of them. That would be my pick. Now, if you guys ask me who I like, I don't know, man. I still see something in Jackson Dart, man. I do.
Donation.
If you're asking me, hold on. We got some Wonder Bread, so let me interrupt myself. Round of applause to the good brother, C.T. Pittman. I appreciate that, man. He says, Orlovsky said earlier that this week that Milroe is the intriguing pick in the first round, and he said to the Steelers, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, man. But y'all remember I was saying that, man. I won't necessarily saying first round, but y'all remember when I did my show on Milroe, they claim the Steelers like him. One thing that you have to also consider, he's been invited to the draft, one of 17. So the NFL knows something. It could happen. Now, it would be a luxury for the Steelers to get a Milroe in the third. Wow. You know, and at that point, once you get the third round, you really just, you playing with house money then. Once you get to the third round, you playing with house money. You just taking shots then. So imagine that scenario. I mean, if he in the third round, they're definitely drafting him. If the Steelers somehow trade back and get to the second round, look out. If that happens, if the trade back scenario happens, I don't know who they draft. That's interesting. But we'll see. But yeah, let me just give you my 2 cents again, man, before Thursday, and we'll probably talk about it again as the draft is happening. Minus Cam Ward, if somebody told me, who do you prefer that they take in the first out of Shedeur, Dart, Milroe, Shuck, Howard? Everybody else is behind that. You know, the Riley Leonards of the world and the Kyle McCord, you know. I still think I have it in this order. Dart, Milroe, Shedeur. Let me explain, because some of y'all are probably going crazy right now. I'm only, again, can I say this again? I am only saying Shedeur is my third choice because I do not think Shedeur fits our scheme. That's the only reason why Shedeur is not my first pick if I had my way. Scheme. That's the only reason. Other than that, I like Shedeur more than I think a lot of people like Shedeur. Shedeur is poised. Shedeur is accurate. Shedeur is patient. Shedeur has subtle evade. He can evade guys in the pocket. Subtle. He'll stand in the pocket and deliver. He's tough. Got beat up behind that offensive line. He's mentored by Tom Brady. Not going to offer you too much with his legs, but he'll get out and go if he has to, but he ain't going too far. But still, poise, pedigree. I know where he comes from, so you know the mental game going to be there. I just don't think he fits the Steelers. That is the only reason why he's not my first QB. So there you have it from SimFBallCritic. Jackson Dart probably would be my first, Milroe second, for similar reasons. Jackson Dart, I feel like is more, and listen, both of them are rough, but I think he's more polished than Milroe today. So that's the only reason why I would say I might take a shot with him first, Milroe close second, and again, it's because of athletic ability. So I would be drafting Milroe for what he could be. Where if I'm trying to figure out, look, both of these guys are going to have to play early. Which one of these guys might be able to play better now? I think it's Dart. I think Dart plays better today. So that's the only reason why I have it in that order. Those are just my thoughts, man. Those are just my thoughts. And I, again, some of you guys can go back and watch my video that was dedicated to Dart to understand why I like him. Again, I don't think any of these guys are must-haves. I'm only judging and rating these guys based on the class. But Dart is tough. I like that kid's mentality. He's tough. He will run. He'll take off and run. He'll lower that shoulder. He runs more like a Josh Allen, right? Like a bruiser type of running quarterback. You know, he's a big, tough kid. Not saying he runs as well. I'm just talking about his style. And I've said that, to me, Jackson Dart might be a bigger Tampa Bay Buck Baker Mayfield in terms of style of play. I think he'll make some phenomenal throws here and there. I think he could do enough for you to win with. Again, he's not a slam dunk. You know, I don't think nobody looks at him and said he's going to be special. But I think he has potential. And like I said, Steeler Nation, would you guys accept, again, a Baker Mayfield of Tampa Bay? Would y'all accept that type of quarterbacking? Gonna get a couple interceptions here and there, but I think you would take that, you know, and see what you can get out of that. And if he's not it, you go back and do it again. But that's why I like Dart, man. Tough guy, relatively decent arm, relatively decent accuracy. You know, he definitely has some things he needs to work on for sure. But, you know, I don't think he's that bad of a QB. You know, and that's what I got, man. You know, Milroe probably has the biggest arm. His accuracy is just in question. But yeah, man, there you have it. Somebody says Shador is 23, Milroe is 22. Okay. And you know what's funny? Can I be open and honest real quick? I don't know why do we care so much about that? Even teams. We sitting here waiting for a 41-year-old quarterback to sign. Granted, he's had a 20-year career. I'm just saying, like, we just watched a 36-year-old, 37-year-old Russell Wilson get the money he got. Again, he's had an illustrious career. I'm just saying that age thing don't really matter no more, in my opinion. Even if you took a guy like Shuck, that's, what is he, 26 already, or is he going to turn 25? But let's just say he's 26. Let's say not him, I'm just talking about the age. Let's say you draft a 26-year-old quarterback and he becomes a 10-year starter for you. A nice, solid franchise quarterback. That's 10 years. 10 seasons. Most teams don't get that. So I don't understand why we so picky about a quarterback's age. I don't understand. That's just me. I told y'all guys, I just try to use logic, you know, in my opinions. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I just don't understand what the issue is. They make so much about that. They fuss so much about age, and quarterback is one of the positions that can be the oldest on the field. So I don't understand what the hesitation is with that. He's 24. You know what I would do to be 24 again? I mean, of course, I wouldn't give up my son and my wife. You know, I wouldn't want to go back to that. But I'm just saying, being 24, like, it's crazy to me, man. It's ridiculous to me. I'm just saying, listen, I don't understand why we do that, and I don't understand why GMs do that when these quarterbacks be paying forever. But that's all I got, guys. I'm gonna sit around in the chat for a little bit, see what y'all got. Give me some thoughts, guys, on what y'all think might happen. What's up, Mark? My man Mark says, facts, Kenyon. I hadn't thought about that point about next year's QB crop. Wait, so Kenyon says, Nico, number 2 prospect, transferred to Tennessee and UCLA because of money. Do you really want to draft a QB that could leave you over money? Ooh, it's a good point. He says, you don't know what QBs are actually coming out because of the bag they are making in college. That is a great point, Kenya. Excellent point. Got to think about that. Ain't that crazy? That boy held out. That boy was holding out for more money in college. Interesting. Master of Music says, Sim, because it's American, we don't like old. We're very out of the old and in with the new. Yeah. Somebody said Pickett is a journeyman already. A journeyman with a Super Bowl ring. Ain't that something? Jack Bauer says, because an older QB is closer to his peak, I'd want a younger one too. I mean, I understand that, Jack, but I'm just saying, in no world should we look at an athlete that's 25 years old and say he's old. Oh, he's too old to draft. That's crazy to me. Robert Ellison says, Sim, what do you think about Sam Howell? Think the third on the depth chart in Seattle. What does it take to get him? Because Sam Howell, if I'm not mistaken, is a trade, right? So, man, I'm gonna be honest. My opinion has not changed about Sam Howell since he was in college. I feel the exact same way about him. Junior season, I was on him. I was like, this kid's kind of, there go that Baker Mayfield again. This kid's kind of tough. Kind of reminds me of Baker a little bit. And then his senior year, not so much. You know, he lost De'Ami Brown and guys like that. Senior year production wasn't as high. And then he comes into the league and he just hasn't, has not been anything special. So, I mean, to get Sam Howell in your room, okay, but I definitely would not want to trade for him because I don't view him as a starter for the Steelers. So I'm cool on that. Oladokin has 3 Super Bowl rings. Lord have mercy. Ain't that crazy? And you know what Steelers fans always say? See, you should have kept him. I saw people saying that about Kenny Pickett. Y'all believe that? If I'm lying, I'm flying. Excuse me. If I'm lying, I'm flying. I saw people literally saying that, see, Kenny has a Super Bowl ring. The Steelers should have kept him. As if he won the ring. Like, I'm telling you guys, some of the fans, I love all of y'all, but some of y'all just really don't pay attention to the game. Y'all just look at the highlights, man. Y'all just assume, oh, he has a ring, as if he contributed at all to it in terms of in-game play. Sure, part of the team. Sure, scout team, all of that. Yes, much respect for that. But y'all saying that like him winning a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles translates into what he would have done for the Steelers. Man, y'all don't stop. Also, everybody forgets that Kenny Pickett asked to be traded. So, let's see. Why Dickie says, I hope Omar displays patience and don't overmake a panic pick. I am there with you as well, brother. Don't jump off the deep end. Don't jump off the deep end. Man, I'm going to say this. What's up, man? Three wings and mumbo. Dog, why are we being so disrespectful to Shador? I hope, you know what? I hope Shador turns out to be an outstanding quarterback because of comments like that. You calling that man Shador Leaf. You comparing him to Ryan Leaf. Why? I mean, listen, if you think he's trash, I'm going to give you one of these. Agree to disagree. I just don't, I don't see that from him, man. I don't know if anybody saw that in Ryan Leaf before he came out. I don't know. I don't remember really watching and paying attention to much of Ryan Leaf in college. I'm just saying, I don't know if people thought that about him. You know, I don't think people thought that he was going to be a bum. So it's like we can't do we can't use the hindsight when we're trying to judge things. You know, when he came into the league, turned out not to pan out, you can't then say, oh, so-and-so is going to, like, no, I don't think people thought, Kenyon would probably know, I don't think people were saying that about Ryan Leaf before he came out. So, Robert says, what do you think the first round pick is for need or best player? Ooh, that's a good one this year, man. I think the Steelers like to be in position where they could do best available. However, I think they are absolutely in a need. This is 20, what year was that? When did they draft Kenny? 2020? This is 2020 all over again. I think they have an obvious need, and if one of the handful of quarterbacks, I'll say 6 of them, but mainly like 4, if one of the handful of quarterbacks is sitting there, they're going to be forced to draft for need because they need a quarterback. I don't think they have as much flexibility this year. That was 22? Wow, Kenny Pickett was 2022. Whoa. I didn't think we were. No, couldn't have been 22, was it? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because 22 would have been his rookie season. 23 would have been his second year. Then we traded him in his third, which, yeah, you guys are right. Wow. See, it don't even seem like he was only there. That was just that few years ago. So, yeah, I think it's 2022 all over again. They would like to do best player available, but I think they're going to force themselves to have to take one of these guys if they're sitting there at 21, depending on who's there. I think ideally they have several of these quarterbacks on their big board. And it's just going to depend on how the board breaks once they get to 21. That's going to determine if they trade back. It's all going to depend on who they have on their big board at QB and if that QB is there. Some of these guys, I'm pretty sure they say, okay, we'll take him in the first. We'll take him in the third. We'll get one of those guys fourth and beyond. But if one of those guys that they view as first round is there, they're going to take him at 21. I absolutely think that's what's going to happen because they have to. They have to. Yeah, they have to do it, man. They put themselves in this situation. I understand saying draft the best player available, but who is that player at 21? What position are they? You know, again, we might not like it, but the Steelers are forced to draft a quarterback. Mumbo, I'm not doing that with you. Listen, you don't like Shador, so I told you guys I am not in the business of arguing your point of view. For what? You feel that way? I can't change that, so there's no need to debate it. I just don't feel like Shador Sanders is Ryan Leaf. That's all. I don't have to explain why I feel that way. I just don't think that the man is Ryan Leaf. I think Shador Sanders gets a lot of heat his way. I think Shador played as good as any other quarterback in this draft. They all have their positives. They all have their negatives. The clear number one is probably Cam Ward. But I think Shador played as well as any of these guys. Simple and plain. And that's all I got to say. What else y'all got? Somebody's comparing Derek Harmon to Cam Hayward, Kenya? Holy moly. Kenya says Cam Hayward was dominant in college at Ohio State. Derek Harmon was good 1 year in Oregon. And at Michigan State, he was okay. Okay. Master Music says, I think Tomlin's desperate with the Rodgers thing. Yeah, I mean, we can all speculate, but none of us really know, who's driving that ship. It could be Tomlin, Omar Khan, and Rooney. It could be only Tomlin. It could be only Omar. We don't know. So I try not to speculate on those things. I won't tattoo the word desperate on any of the people in the organization. However, they have forced themselves to be desperate. Because again, this is what most people would say. And even I said move on from Rodgers. But most people who say move on from Rodgers, what do y'all follow that up with saying? Man, just rock with Mason Rudolph and get your quarterback in 2026. Dog. The NFL draft don't work like that. Nothing is promised. Kenyon just made a point about the money. I've seen other people, even pundits, saying, listen, some of these kids might not come out and some of these kids could get injured, all that. You can't bet for next year. It's never a sure thing. They was like, Arch Manning might not come out. You never know. He might return. So I'm just not in the business. That's just my mindset as a person. I'm never in the business putting off for tomorrow, because you never know about tomorrow. None of it is promised, literally, but then none of it is promised. Shout outs to my man CT Pittman. I appreciate that. Wonder bread. He says Shador took 2 programs from irrelevancy to must-see TV. People forget that. I'm just saying, man. Again, I'm not here to change opinions, but no. That boy is not trash, man, in my opinion. And nobody gonna change that. So I won't try to change you guys' opinion of Shador. And I just say I feel like he takes some unnecessary heat. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But we do that. We do that as people. One of my best friends, man, coming up, I'll tell this quick story and then we get out of here. He could not stand Kobe Bryant. Hated him. I was like, why? Man, I don't know. He just, I was like, but what is it? I don't know, man. I just don't, I was like, I ain't got no beef with Kobe. I actually admired Kobe's game and him as a person. It was like, the dude speak multiple languages. He a little more clean cut. Went and got some dirt on his name out in Colorado. Showed that he was real. He was human. But I was like, why? But my boy he might be watching. He couldn't stand Kobe. I was like, why? What is it? And I think what it was, and I'm not saying this about my boy, I'm just saying a lot of people gravitated to AI, and I love AI. Y'all know that. But I noticed there was some people that gravitated more to AI because he's more, he from around the way, got the braids, he fly, da-da-da-da-da. But Kobe, people looked at Kobe like a square. And I was like, and I've learned this in life, guys, like, it's okay for some people to be a square. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? You ain't got to be hood, to be cool. You can be a square. For all intents and purposes, today, some people would say, oh, he a square. Because living a home, and not boasting of nothing, nice single family home, nice living, pool in the back, wife, son. I mean, we nice living, right? Because I don't go hang out, do this and do that, and I ain't running the streets. Some people would be like, oh, he a square. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's cool. So it's just, I learned that lesson then when I'm young. I'm watching like, I think we don't like him because he a square. I think that's why people hated him. So I just use that analogy to say people dislike sports figures and stuff for they don't even know why. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't know, call it maturing. I just don't have that much investment in people I don't know, bro. I'm from that cloth. You know what I mean? Like I had them times back in the day where I ran the street. Like I'm come from a different era. I don't care that much about somebody I don't know to dislike them. And it's funny. I used to pick with my boy all the time. Like, yo, why do you just hate Kobe? Like, what did he do to you? He just couldn't stand him. Not as a basketball player. Like you couldn't knock his game. He just didn't like him. And I'm like, yo, but we don't know him. But I see the same thing happen today with us fans, man. It's certain players, y'all just hate them. Why? It's okay, you can say, yo, he seemed like a such and such type of guy. That ain't my bag. Cool. But I don't know. I think some of y'all go too far, man. That's facts, Jack. That's facts. It's a tricky balance too, Jack Bauer. Me having a son now at 11, it's certain times a piece of you want them to kind of see some of the experiences you had, but at the same time you don't. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe I'll get into that on another show. Like, it's coming, guys. I think it's time for me to do that show I've been telling y'all about, where I'm talking about real life stuff. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff I want to say that this forum ain't for that. But that's a tough realization for a lot of, I would say, parents and people who come from a certain area, or even if you didn't come from a certain area, if you did certain things in your childhood and teen years, early 20s, and you kind of feel like, yeah, my son got to kind of see that so he could be a little street savvy. But then you like, I don't want my son doing that. I don't want him to have to experience that. And like you said, Jack said he'd rather his son be Kobe than a thug. That's real. That's real. That is a fact. You don't have to be from the hood to be thorough. Don't mean that you soft just because you ain't from the hood. So, but anyway, let me get back to it, guys. What else, y'all guys? That about it? Why, Diggy? Don't do that to my boy, man. He said to be fair, AI was also whack on the mic. Go ahead, man. But you know what I mean? Ain't none of them dudes could rhyme like that. And look, Big Shaq, got to give Shaq his credit. He's Shaq Platinum, baby. And right now, that boy Dame Lillard be spitting. But yeah. Anyway, let's get back to. I'm not mad at that, Ali. And that's another thing that I love about AI. He says he opened up the door to play as you are. For us in the good old boy states. I feel you. That's why, listen, I love AI because he was an undersized dog. 100% every time he played, and he did not waver. He was him. He didn't allow somebody to tell him who he had to be. He said, I'm going to be Allen Iverson. I'm going to dress how I want to dress. I want to talk how I want to talk, and the same token can be said there. Just because you dress and look and talk a certain way, it don't mean that you a bad person. Look at him now. He's mature now. So I gravitated to him too because of those things. But like I said, I didn't hate on a Kobe. I was able to identify both. That's my whole point. They both had different walks of life, but I was able to connect to both. So, like I said, that's for another show, guys. What else y'all got? Is that it? Guess we can go ahead and close this one down. Guys, we will be back. I say we because my good brother Kenya should be joining me, man, on Thursday for the draft. And y'all know me. Y'all know I had to look at my phone to get the results because, I don't have a TV in this room in the office, but You know, I don't have traditional cable no more, so you know my TV be like a little bit behind. Get all the channels and all that, but I be a little bit behind. So sometimes I have to rely on y'all, or I'll rely with Kenyon to tell me what the pick was, so you know you guys don't spoil it before I see it or whatever. But we gonna make it happen, man. That should be a fun show. We gonna get rocking about 8 o'clock ish. You know, if we're not right on at 8, no big deal, because we think we're not gonna pick till 21. And we'll hang out, man. I encourage everybody, if y'all enjoy the content, man, y'all come on through. We're gonna try to have a good time, and we're gonna rock out. But all right, hold on. Debbie says, facts, Sim, everyone has a maturity window. You just have to hope someone's range isn't on the back end when it may be too late. You are absolutely correct. Debbie, I got to see you soon, Debbie. I need to see you on the show on a Zoom or something soon. It's been too long, man. We miss you out here, Debbie. So yeah, like I said, if you are, and listen, there's no pressure, but if you are available, if it's not Thursday, anytime soon, you and the ladies, y'all want to come on, please, y'all, you already know. But all right, man, let's get out of here, man. Y'all have a great evening, but before we go, I'm gonna have y'all do this, please. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you know when we are up and running. Outside of that, until Thursday, I'm gonna ask y'all, please stay safe. Stay healthy. God bless. Good night. Like always, thank each and every one of you all for tuning in. And I shall catch you in the next one, which in this case will be Thursday night. Until then, peace.